Now, with the European Parliament election behind us, one of the more surprising developments is perhaps taking place in France, as we saw Marine Le Pen's party pulling significantly ahead, as well as President Macron's announcement to dissolve the National Assembly. For that, we bring in a guest to tell us more.
And joining us to discuss this is Karolina Borońska-Hryniewiecka, Associate Research Fellow from Université Paris Panthéon-Sorbonne. Thank you so much for joining us here on TVP World.
Hello, good morning, everybody.
So I would love to start now with the fact that Macron's announcement of snap adoptions is a bold response to the pressure from the national rally. So why do you think Macron decided to choose this way? Is he preparing now the country for the presidential elections in 3 years, or is it a way to scare now the French society as a whole? What do you think?
Well, maybe the best reflection of what people think is the headlines in the main French media. Today we can read, for example, is it harakiri or is it a poker game that is well thought over? Well, in my view, I think that this is the only possible move from Macron's side if he wants to have any genuine influence on the political scene. As we know, he's not able to be elected again. As we know, the French national rally is heading in the polls, also in the presidential polls, because we know that Marine Le Pen is now the favorite for 2027. And in this situation, I think his decision to dissolve the parliament is daring and shocking in a bit in two aspects. First of all, in his appeal in his very short appeal or a speech to the voters yesterday, he said, I want to give you back the vote. I want to give you back the influence. I see that the country is not going in the right direction. And I would like you to take the responsibility, not only for what's going to happen at the EU level, because obviously you've chosen the far right. But I want you now to think about the future of your country. So he's daring, he's challenging them. But at the same time, I think that he's putting Front National Rassemblement National in a quite uncomfortable position because it is a very quick campaign. It will be only 3 weeks. And even if the Front National, Rassemblement National wins, this will be a cohabitation. And we know that France is a presidential system. This will be a very difficult time for the right wing to govern. And I think Macron wants to play it on his terms. So in other words, he did not want to wait for some vote of censure from the right wing or from the left wing or from all the, dissatisfied. He wanted to play it on his terms. One more important thing, yesterday, after the election results the exit polls were announced, Gabriel Attal, the current prime minister, French prime minister, came to Macron and said, I'm ready to resign. That would be the natural thing to do. And Macron refused. He said, no, this is not the right move. I think we should play it large and basically give people the power. This is the democracy at play at the moment, but this is the real democracy with real responsibility for the nation. So he's using the word, take responsibility for your nation now.
Right, and you mentioned this being quite a bold move. We read earlier today in Politico that they're even describing it as a gamble, as spectators have been saying that this probably is a move to kind of push the election before Le Pen's party is able to consolidate her base. And of course, we do know that Le Pen is relatively popular. However, she doesn't have a lot of candidates under her wing to be able to run for the National Assembly, hence the short snap election. But can you also tell us, when it comes to that gamble, what would be the downside if it didn't pan out the way that he hoped for?
Well, definitely, if his gamble is won, then it's a genius. But if voters will show Macron for the second time the red card, then obviously this will be a chaos for the country. we have to take into account that the timing now, it's also quite uncomfortable because in July, the Olympic Games are starting. It's a huge undertaking that Paris and France have been preparing for months or for years. And now we have this election that requires a lot of mobilization. I mean, this is really unprecedented. Of course, the dissolutions took place during the Fifth Republic, but it is the first time that it takes place while the presidential and legislative mandates are kind of overlapping. So this is, in this sense, unprecedented. And the spokesman of the Renaissance Party, Stéphane Séjourné, he just called, I mean, many people from the Macronists called the other pro-Republican democratic forces to join forces and to come together against the far right. But we don't know what's going to be the result. It's really hard to predict at the moment. Definitely, French people have mobilized for the European elections because the turnout was high. It was higher than before, over 50%. Mm-hmm. Are they going to be tired of the vote and not go to vote in the first round? It's going to be on the 30th of June, so very soon. We don't know. I mean, this will be very exciting.
Right, so you mentioned the quite high voter turnout over now 50%, and I feel like that itself speaks volumes. So expanding on that and adding to that, how do you feel like, how significant is public sentiment and voter dissatisfaction with centrist politics in this political shift that we are witnessing in France?
You see, I am myself living in a somehow dissonance because on one hand, I'm a foreigner, I'm a Pole, and I watch Macron from the international perspective as well, and I highly respect the way he acts in European politics. But then he's losing big time in the domestic field, and actually he is everything the opposite of what the average French voter is, because the average French voter at this time today is basically the one that cannot afford simple things like rents for the flats, holidays. The food is getting more and more expensive. Purchasing power of French people is going down. Like, for example, in Poland, we can observe the other trend. We are getting richer. And the French people are feeling it physically, that the last years are not the best timing. And also we have, as we know, the threat of the war on the east, and help for Ukraine is pictured in France as playing to the disadvantage of regular French. This is obviously the narrative of the far right. So basically, Macron is not succeeding in convincing the voters that his direction is right. But let's see what he's going to do this week, because actually this week we can expect another speech, another statement, probably a longer one, that is going to lay out the program, the very short electoral program of Renaissance. He said that this is a recipe for the nation to take. We'll see if this is going to be reliable and convincing. Everybody's very curious.
Right, definitely a very interesting thing to observe going forward. And of course, it is a gamble. It is up in the air. If I were a gambling man, I wouldn't know where to put my bets on.
Absolutely not. Thank you so much, madam, for joining us. Karolina Borońska-Hryniewiecka was our guest today. Thank you for your insights.
Thank you very much.